Will the ACC still have some of the most competitive wrestling next year? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for college wrestling news and discussion. And this week, we're breaking down the ACC, the rankings, the predictions, the dual meet rankings, and everything going on with them is going to be broken down in this video. And I'm talking about this because UNC actually already released their in-conference schedule. Now, yeah, of course, we knew the teams they were going to be wrestling, but it's interesting to see when. I mean, yeah, I guess we do know they're competing in January and February. That's when they are. But it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see that college wrestling is upcoming, especially because last year, remember, at this time, we had no schedule. We had no clue what was happening. So it's excited. It's fun to get excited about this. Now, some of the most exciting duels to look forward to for UNC, of course, their duel against NC State in Raleigh is going to be an exciting one. I'm going to try to be there if I can. Their duels against Virginia Tech and Pitt are always very exciting. And when you have a returning national champion in your lineup, I mean, that's fun for the fans. It is fun for the fans to have that. So what are my preseason dual meet rankings right now? What are they? And I'll get into them, and then I'll go into why, as well as what I think my predictions are for what could happen this season. I do plan to do another video breaking down some of my actual, once we get even closer to the season, but I do want to talk about this way too early prediction. So I do have Virginia Tech at the top because they have a win over NC State last season. NC State I have as the number 2. Pitt I have at number 3, and I'll explain that in a little bit. UNC, Virginia, and then Duke is in 6 for the preseason rankings right now. Again, it's July. I mean, we could even see some things change depending on, crazy stuff happens in wrestling. Transfers and guys being injured, whatever. But preseason right now, way too early. So NC State is returning all but one senior, 3 All-Americans back with Hiley brothers. I mean, that's super exciting to have those guys back in the lineup. Tariq Wilson. I mean, they have a solid squad from top to bottom. They have in the past, but really this year they're strong, and they're going to be readjusting some guys all around. I'm actually going to have an NC State lineup preview coming soon, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you can be updated when the NC State lineup comes out, because there are some interesting readjustments to their lineup. It's actually really crazy with Wilson and Hiley bumping up, and I think it puts them in a good position against Virginia Tech, who also has a similar lineup to last year in a similar position with 3 tough guys returning, Hunter Bolin, Myers, as well as Latona. Each of these guys returning is going to be big for their lineup. I mean, Latona's really a huge reason why Virginia Tech was able to beat NC State last year, and him coming back as an All-American, just bringing even more heat back to the kitchen, as they say. Transferring in, though, I think this is going to be big, and I actually discussed him as one of my most impactful transfers in another video, is Nathan Traxler at heavyweight, who pinned NC State's heavyweight last year. Whenever Traxler was at Stanford at NCAA tournament, he pinned Wilson, NC State's heavyweight. So that's big points on the board for Virginia Tech. As well as some of these other teams, I do want to mention, like I said, UNC returning ACC champ, returning NCAA champ, Austin O'Connor, as well as Zach Sherman, another All-American back in the lineup. This is huge for the Rams, or the Tar Heels, as well as for Pitt. They have 2 national finalists returning to their lineup. They also have transferring in those national finalists are Jake Wenzel and Nino Bonacorsi. That's going to be big and plays a big impact for those guys, especially since they really came alive at the end of the season. So I'm interested to see how they do again in the dual meet season, when they even had a couple of losses throughout the season, right? They weren't like those undefeated guys. They had a couple of losses. They took a couple of lumps. Transferring in is Elijah Cleary from Ohio State and Gage Curry of American. Each of these guys is transferring in to Pitt, making their lineup potentially even stronger. And then Virginia, I think one of the big things to mention about them is that they're getting Jared Verclaren. That's a good addition to their lineup. And Duke, although I have them at 6, one of the important things here is that the Fine Silvers are back. Josh Fine Silver made the round of 12 last year, so that's something to look forward to next year, as well as Matt Fine Silver, who's back in the lineup at 174 pounds, who didn't qualify since 2019, but he was a national qualifier then. He's been out and just by not qualifying, I meant not competing, right? He couldn't qualify because he couldn't compete. But there's a lot of excitement happening with all of these teams. So let's look at what could happen, some of these predictions for next year with these dual meets. And one of the big things is, actually a lot of the bottom is kind of the same as far as my preseason and pro season predictions, but the big one I have to talk about is Virginia Tech and NC State. So this was a breakdown last year when Virginia Tech was able to defeat NC State. Came down to the wire, came down to Latona, being able to beat Camacho at that 125-pound bout, and I hope it comes down to that again. I mean, you don't have a better story than that right there. It's super exciting to see it come down to that. I mean, so who's the fan favorite, or who's the favorite on paper right now? Right now, although Virginia Tech did beat them in fair and square in a dual meet last year, I think NC State is still the favorite to win the duel. The favorite. I didn't say I think they're going to win. They're the favorite. Why? Just because of the lineup bumps. Again, check out the video that I'm going to have about their lineup. But I think they are the favorite on paper. But I still think Virginia Tech is going to edge them out in a duel just because of all this talent they have coming in. I mean, Nathan Traxler is a big addition to the lineup. If you have a lot of these guys, I mean, I don't know where Mekhi Lewis is going to go right now. Again, way too early. Is he going to go 65, 74? If you have the Mekhi Lewis and Hayden Hiley head-to-head at 174, that's a huge matchup. That's a huge toss-up for these guys. And although Virginia Tech, they beat them last year, the last win against NC State was in 2017. I mean, these two teams go back and forth. They battle back and forth. As far as the rest of what's going on here, yeah, UNC, I mean, I think it just kind of stacks up from the bottom. I don't think you're going to see a UNC upset NC State or Virginia Tech. I think those are the two powerhouses right now. I mean, you may see a couple of individual match upsets and things like that. And Pitt, I think Pitt and UNC can actually be quite an exciting duel, but it just depends on where things kind of line up. I think there's some different spots in the lineup that don't quite match up, but that's the that's the ACC predictions and preview. What do you think? Where would you rank these teams? And the big question is NC State going to be able to beat Virginia Tech or not? Now, if you're interested in seeing which seniors are not returning for their extra season of eligibility, I actually made a whole video talking about this. Some of the guys that are not coming back and why they're not coming back. You can click here to watch now.